Good morning. Oh my goodness. Good afternoon, Spirit Medicine Ways familia. It is so nice to be here with you today. My name is Christina Maria, medicine name Hummingbird Medicine, and I think I'm live. It looks like everything is in working order. There seems to be a delay, and I'm praying that the other side looks good. We've had some interesting technological times. Sharing videos and such. So welcome to Spirit Medicine Ways. Welcome to our home, Spirit Medicine community, and a place of really sharing and a space that really comes in to show this medicine of spirit, and that medicine being in all things, especially when filled with intention. So I welcome you here. If it's your first time, please browse on the page. Also, check us out on Instagram and website coming soon. So, to a computer near you. I have been with Spirit Medicine Ways for quite a little bit. It birthed through me a while ago, and it first started as Healing Medicine Ways, and then technology cut me off that name, and Spirit Medicine was away. So it seems like that's the name that's sticking and the one that wants to be. I'm a medicine woman, curandera, by the medicine. And I've been initiated through some humans, blessed women, divine medicine women and goddesses, Robin Rose Bennett, phenomenal teacher, friend, witch, herbalist, wise woman healer, and Kate Anjalia Loy, phenomenal shaman, celestial gift channel, guide, and light language communicator, and Irma Star Spirit Turtle Woman, una maestra of the medicine and of the medicine ways of indigenous and traditional medicine, and who so wisely saw the name Hummingbird Medicine. So that's a little bit about me. And I offer sessions and groups and all this good stuff and videos, such as this one. So this video is about sacred medicines. And how sacred medicine video came about was that, and I'm looking to my left because I have my notes and I'm still working this stuff out. So please be patient with me. And how it birthed, I was getting I work a lot with different medicines, earth medicines, very much so. And I have a history of different, I consider I come from the school of thought that everything is medicine. And I've had a long history of many different types of medicine in my life, whether personally that I've ingested or communed with, vis-a-vis my body and taking it in, or sharing with people. I've had a lot of connections with people who have done ranges of medicine, and I've been very intimately connected with them during their processes. So I was being called to really talk about specifically psilocybin, Santa Maria, also known as cannabis or weed or marijuana, and tobacco. And it was coming up a lot in ceremonies. I'm also a facilitator of grandmother and Kambo ceremonies. And it was coming up a lot in the community in different ways. So I was called to offer this talk on those very specific medicines. And so yesterday I was preparing, and I was saying, you know, those need a level of kind of research. And then I was seeing something grander. And one of the things that came into place that after that was going to be a video called Meet the Medicine. So Meet the Medicine is a beautiful initiation that started, I want to say almost 3 years ago, and it was surrounding learning about and experiencing by way of meeting the humans, the facilitators or the medicine people, learning indigenous and traditional medicines, namely ayahuasca, kambo, hape, and sananga. So Meet the Medicine is a talk that myself and then was Antoinette, another blessed sacred medicine sister, an older, who I cherish and I love. And so we started it. And she was one of the first medicine sisters, and it was supposed to be also Arele Satani, who has now been taking it with me, and we've gone quite a little bit. So Meet the Medicine is a talk that we do. So it was connected to this. So it was going to be sacred medicines, psilocybins and all that stuff, and then Meet the Medicine. And so yesterday, when I'm preparing for this, I saw that actually sacred medicines was going to be an introduction, because this whole other kind of category or kind of aspect of medicines came in. And it was what we know as street medicines or social medicines: alcohol, cocaine, heroin, most likely crystal meth, and some others. Maybe we'll sprinkle and dabble in there. So this series now became this talk on what is sacred and what is medicine. And it was interesting how even it aligned, right? So the first series that was going to be psilocybin became number 1. That's on 4 or 5, I believe. And then the second series, which was going to be Meet the Medicine, which is, I got to get my dates just so I can be very accurate here with you, is the week after that is ayahuasca gumbo, so it's the Meet the Medicine. And then we skip a week because we have our sacred ceremony that month, and we go to the last one, which is alcohol, heroin, cocaine, and other medicines. So it happens naturally, and it progressed in that way, and it evolved, and it became Let's Talk Medicine series. One of the things that we in the community of spirit medicines, or the spirit medicines and how I understand them, is to thrive to see that everything is medicine, and to understand medicine by way of a much more holistic and a larger view. And when we're able to see it in that larger view, then hopefully we're able to also approach it from a healing perspective in a grander view and a much more expansive and deep view, versus from a more symptomology view, which is very typically Western. So what is sacred medicine? Let's delve right in here. Now that you've indulged me for 7 minutes. What is sacred medicine? Let's break this down. The Merriam-Webster dictionary calls sacred something worth of religious veneration. That's the formal dictionary definition. Worth of religious veneration. And then it says holy. So I scratched up religious and said worth of veneration. And then the second, or the B, like this is the first definition, and the B definition is entitled to reverence and respect. I would say honor. I see honor and respect a little differently, and I'll talk more about that as we go through the series. So those two really struck me. They were pretty accurate to me, and they're also pretty subjective, right? To me, sacred means holy, full of honor, revering, and in full alignment. And full alignment, many of us use the term balance, many of us use the term in center, and so an example for me, something that's a sacred experience, is that every time I sit for food or I sit to ingest food, that's a sacred time for me. Each time I engage in that action, that constitutes a sacred medicine for me, because I'm ingesting this food. And so when we put it in that context, a little larger or a little bit more less related to a religious or spiritual act, then it becomes something that maybe we can all kind of partake in. So then we break that down, and we have the question of what is medicine? This is always pretty testy. It's very interesting that medicine is a word that it's got to take on some ownership by the allopathic society of medicine. And I find that fascinating as a medicine woman, and someone who sees that term as a gift, right? Because we're all medicine, and we have our medicine. And that's something that this series will also take us through. So it was very fascinating that the Oxford Dictionary actually put it in the medical society. The first term was like medical society. I'm much more of a Merriam-Webster, which for me is much more descriptive and a larger. It gives you a larger definition, or a much more open, expansive definition. So Merriam-Webster says, a substance or preparation used in treating a disease. And we know that Louise Hay, popular, now transitioned healer, of learning vibration and thoughts and all the things that manifest through us by way of physical illness, she would call it dis-ease. So the first definition is substance or preparation used in treating dis-ease. And then the B, right, that's A, 1A, and then 1B is something that affects well-being. I really liked that. Something that affects, AF, right, not effects. Effects means that it's following, like a cause and effect. Affects is like the way that it impacts, right? That's more of a word. So to me, it's something that impacts my being, our being, mind, body, and soul, and I put in quotations, spirit. I'll explain a little bit. Spirit, our spirit to me is, or the way that I understand it, the way that it's come through to me is pristine. It is so whole, it is so free of any of these ideas that we believe, and it actually is always there, waiting for us. Now, our soul is another aspect, but that's another conversation. So, sacred medicine can be something holy that impacts or affects our being, mind, body, and spirit. So this opens us to questions. It leads us with quite an open-ended experience. So some of the questions is, what is holy? What is holy? What is considered holy? Like, how do I describe or even experience or define holiness? And that's pretty subjective. That's something that is kind of hard, right? So then I'd also say, then what is sacred? And what is sacred to me may not be something that's sacred to you. And that's something that these practices and these medicines that we're going to talk about, and that's what this series is going to do, it's going to open us to these grander scopes. So I invite this series to be looked at by practitioners, by people who are working with these medicines or just working with spirit medicine in general, whether it be Reiki, whether it be herbalism, whether it be energy vibrational healing, whether it be social work, whether it be psychotherapy, and you're doing a more integrated holistic practice. It really opens us to the idea that these words are subjective, hence why they kind of sometimes limit us, but they can also help us expand and see the infinite qualities of the human. So what's holy? And so the second kind of part of that is medicine necessarily helpful? Is medicine necessarily healing? Because it treats disease or alleviates a symptom, does it make it healthy? I know medicines that we use right now, pharmaceuticals, that treat many diseases or symptoms. Depakote is a perfect one. Depakote treats mania, treats depression, and it alleviates symptoms of mood disturbances or helps to regulate. Does that make it very healthy for my liver? Does that make it long-term healthy for my entire being? And does it really fully nourish my soul as it helps me move through these processes? That's a question. So these questions about does it make it healthy, and does it make it healing? So these three words, does it make it helpful? Medicine, right? Does it make it healing? Does it make it healthy? All these words, one, are subjective, right? They have meanings that are different or relative, that are different to different people, depending on how we see helpful, healing, and healthy. And all of them are adjectives, except healing. Healing could be a noun. So an adjective then suggests that it's a description and that it can offer me a variety of attachments. One of the things that I learned is, and this is part of this video, and this is how even alcohol and that third category came to be, because I was like, oh my goodness, people are really gonna think I'm out of this mind when I'm calling these things medicines. And I usually I haven't spoken so freely in these ways, because we're evolving. But now that we're in this place and I'm being called to do this, it kind of puts me in my own process, right? Because I have to disclose and share, and also kind of stand behind this idea that everything is medicine, and that can be a little bit tough, or it can be really celebrated. I'm gonna go with the celebrated part. And so one of the things that I've learned in my path, and I learned this very beautifully, and this aligns with that idea of sacred medicines. I learned and the idea of medicine being helpful, healing, and healthy. I learned very early on in my path while I was on sabbatical in Guatemala. After I had already worked with Abuelita Ayahuasca, my first ceremony, and then I quickly left. I was already leaving my job. I was on this very clear healing, evolutionary ascension mission, and deep beginning of a shamanic initiation. And I learned that there is loving healing and there is hurtful healing. Healing is a word that's very subjective, and also loving is as well as hurtful. Some people heal through hurt, and that's usually because we're living in the wound, and we're going to talk about that in the series. This is much more of a general, just like an introduction, and that's their form of receiving medicine. So it's something to keep in the grander context of things when we're working with people, versus just being like, oh, this is good for you. You know, it helps us step back and see how they understand what is quote unquote good for them, or what they know, right? We're bringing in new ideas to people. So technically, sacred medicine, right? If we go by all these definitions, and idea is up to you. What is holy to you? How is holy to you? I invite you to describe it, to really sit with it for yourself. And what is healing, helpful, and healthy? Or, as I like to say, restorative and nourishing, in full alignment and harmony. That's a like out of harmony and out of space. Those are big words that I will use for what we have termed as addiction. That word in me, I've been in addiction for a long time. I started there, and in my work as a social worker, and in my path as when I was studying, and in childhood, and we'll talk about that. So I like the idea of out of harmony and out of alignments, because it helps us understand that we're the ones that are in really full power. Like nothing can take my power. I can believe that, and the spirits are strong enough to say that to me, that nothing can really. And so when we're able to see it in a little bit more of an expanded scope, I find in my work with people who have a tendency to really step out of harmony, pero rápido, quick, and we all do it. But there's some of us that are more inclined to that, like easily just come here, and like they those little hummingbirds. They like go here, they go there, they go here, and they like it, and it's a lot of many things. But when we put it in a little bit of a bigger scope for them, then it feels a lot less labeling, and it feels a little less a little less restrictive. And if we know anything about sacred medicines or medicines, the more that we can allow a person to feel free and expansive, the more that we have an ability to see them through, and less likeliness that they're going to have to stay with you. So I'm going to pause there while I change my my page, and I'm going to invite any questions, any comments, any ideas, shares of your own while I come here and just check this out. And so a little bit about me, and a little bit about my path, just to kind of give an idea of this, what's sacred and what's medicines. When I envisioned this, I saw myself talking about sacred medicines and me sharing about them by way of a place that was going to be much more textbook, and it will be a little bit, but mainly it really will be very kind of personal journey, and the medicines conversations with me, and the medicines teachings that they've offered me, all of them, all the medicines, whether it's been, again, where am I ingesting them, or I've been in their vibrational current. And so I come from as a child, I was very involved in like DARE. In New Jersey, we had DARE, and it was drug abuse resistance education. It worked with law enforcement, and I was like one of the DARE people, and I was part of the program. So I would go into schools and I would talk to children about, namely marijuana, known as a gateway drug, and namely tobacco, known as a gateway drug, and alcohol, known as the kicker, the clincher that took you into everything, right? And so I was an advocate for staying away or refraining from using these. I also quickly turned around in high school and became very connected with, but now I understand the Santa Maria, cannabis, marijuana. And so when all these medicines came in and all of these ideas came in, it was something that really helped me see that I was going to share with you. Also very clinically, information that I've seen and that I have found that has been documented, but in addition to the clinical information that the plants and these medicines have told me. So it leads me to talk about that idea of how we heal and how we really connect to that which helps us, that which we find alleviating, and understanding that there's something grander. So it leads us in that direction of, so what is the healing again, right? And that loving of for healing. And so healing is something restorative, and it gives me nourishment. It gives me strength. It clarifies and aligns my spine. And I feel whole, well, and complete, which is very connected to the wise woman tradition. Whole, well, and complete. The Merriam-Webster dictionary says that to make free from injury or dis-ease, to make free from injury or dis-ease, to make sound or whole, to make well again, to restore to health. So again, we go back to that idea of when I was in those places, and I was engaging with these all these substances in different times in my life. And I ask, humans have a relationship with alcohol, and many humans may find that this experience with alcohol restores them, and restores them whether they have a stressful day at work, or helps them to alleviate a symptom, or brings about some form of nourishment. Does that make it healing? You know, and I invite us to really allow us to see that. So this series is also going to talk about some really clear applications. This series is going to talk about the indigenous and traditional medicines, such as ayahuasca, gumbo, psilocybin, tobacco. It's also going to talk about some social medicines, and more like cannabis, marijuana, and psychedelics, which are ayahuasca, psilocybin. We may touch a little bit on DMT, just generally. It's not a real medicine that I work too much with, but I have experienced the DMT healing approach to ayahuasca very significantly. So I can talk to that, and we will, because it's an important thing, because DMT is very big right now. And one of the things that we'll cover, and I'll go to that next. And then another thing that we're gonna talk about is straight social meds, like alcohol, from really light to like super hard. Cocaine, heroin, as I said, crystal meth. And we're gonna look at them in those categories, and everything as medicine categories. So we'll cover, and I'm gonna go straight to it, space. And DMT is a perfect example of space and safety. It's a very strong medicine. And when used out of context, it can also be a very puzzling medicine, as can many indigenous medicines. Shamanic medicines are, they have a mystery to them. And when we come in, understanding that there is a mystery and there's an aspect which is that of the spirit, that I am going to commune with and only be the vehicle, then I can really understand what it is that it's asking of me. So we're going to talk about that part. And I gave you DMT as an example because it is one of those. Ayahuasca falls in that category too. Ayahuasca is especially tea. Tea, I've seen it do many things, the full gamut. And so this series will cover roots, history, use, impact, and like benefits. Again, this includes alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and I know it sounds weird, but trust me and ride with me on it. Therapeutic applications, spirit and ascension medicines. I know we don't really talk about that enough, or even put spirit medicine in a category or ascension medicine in a category. They're almost one and the same, and we'll talk about them from that scope. And accessibility, safety, and space. So rituals also, if that's applicable to the medicine. Which I'd say in all these medicines, there's often ritual aspect to it, which is what can also draw us into the toxic spirit of it. It'll also talk about integration and process and traditional and Western perspectives. So yeah, it's gonna really give us the scope of what are these medicines that are very popularized today and that are kind of like coming out into the scene. That was another reason for this talk, Sacred Medicine Talk, was because people were often coming to me asking me about the use and the widespread use of these meds and facilitating. And sometimes what happens in situations where facilitating is offered by way of the human versus the spirit. So yeah, I'll explain that more when we get to the ayahuasca synthesis assignments. So today's intro, and this is also an objective of this, is to open us to the subjectivity and to the perpetual reactions or realities that exist with these medicines. And that sounds like really maybe convoluted, and I'll explain that a little bit more, right? It goes back to what I said about expansiveness and being able to see things from a grander, expanded scope, so that we have access to more things. And we have access to much more loving, fruitful, nourishing, healing ways. And when we move through our processes of healing, then we'll have the ability to really start engaging with different parts of our evolution. So the objective is also to introduce you to these medicines from a multifaceted perspective. From those many perspectives, but also the perspective that I've had. And that it's also meant to let you, to inspire and to really move us as a being, as a one being, and as a whole on this more open idea of what is medicine and what is sacred, and if sacred has to be, I'm just moving myself a little bit here, and to put sacred in a category of of outside of religiosity. And I say that with wholeheartedness because I practice a lot of different ways, and so to really open that up to be much more of a spirit perspective, and also to offer a forgiving perspective. I think that was interesting. Even when I wrote that last night, I was thinking like forgiving perspective. I think that we have a tendency to talk about, I find, and that we have a tendency to talk about alcohol, cocaine, crystal meth, crack, the new one, salvia, all these, oh my goodness, salvia, and all these different, like K. We talk about these things with a lot of hurt still. We still have a very big conversation about these street illicit medicines, aka drugs, very strong response to that word too. And its context that we've given it already. I think it's time to grow from that word and evolve from that word. But if we can come from these places, or come to those places from a space of real forgiveness and compassion, it changes everything. Oh my. It changes the conversation. It changes the relationship to the spirits of which you're ingesting. And these spirits, very openly so, are always not in our best interest. They're definitely in the lower vibrations of our healing, though they serve a purpose, very important purpose. So when we are able to come from forgiveness, and we're able to see that purpose in a grander place. So I pray that this opens up from a forgiving perspective, and opens us and our humans to see the options that exist, that there are ways for loving, healthy healing, and that many of these medicines, and I say it often with abuelita and ayahuasca, it's a gift that only keeps gifting. I often say the gift that keeps gifting. So that is something that will distinguish also from the other medicines that we know or that we've been offered, which have often been put in the self-medication category. Also to let you know that there are options, and so many options, and I'm not the only person that you have to see for these options. There's so many ways, but I want to put it out there in a very safe, loving, and an always welcome, curious place. So I'm gonna pause there, and just let us sit with that before I go towards the end of our works here. Another thing, I want to fully disclose that I'm biased. I'm an Indigenous traditional medicine practitioner, and I highly believe in these medicines. I practice them, I ingest them, I live through them, and I offer them to us. So that makes me already, if this were a clinical study, I would not be a good candidate. But I'm not a clinical study, and I am a real human that is also able to tell you that I fully remember and give great thanks, forgiveness part, to my long, colorful relationship with alcohol and party, drugs like cocaine. And so I give a lot of respect, which is very different than honor, to these ways and their place in my life. Now, even today, my goodness, today. And so I feel like, although I am very biased, and I'm always like, come do the medicines and come do shamanic medicine, and even if you're not ingesting medicine, go the indigenous route. In addition to, I always honor the Western route, because I am a social worker and I am Western trained, and I can see the validity and the value, and that's why we're bridging these together, and bridging them and then integrating them, like our beautiful yoga hands. We become like that, enmeshed, and enmeshed in the most healthy way, and in the most boundary, and yet but like really, really together, connected like a puzzle. I'm doing this really great puzzle right now, the Butterfly Lion King, and it's phenomenal, and it's all these colors and all these different butterflies coming together around this ferocious lion. And so that's how I see these medicines and these approaches coming together and really blending and becoming that one humanity and that one healing with many ways. So another goal of this overall series is that, which is always a goal of Spirit Medicine Ways, but very specifically of this series, because we're going to be talking a lot more poignantly about certain vehicles and tools, that it opens you to your divinity and your purity. The ability to know that you are pure wellness of your mind, body, and soul. That you are pure wellness of your mind, body, and soul. That is a big goal of this And often we can find that in certain traditions or certain beliefs, that if you have a relationship that is considered toxic or considered unhealthy, that one can be seen as unpure or tainted. And so the goal of this is so that you can see yourself ultimately, regardless of where you are, regardless of what path you are on, whether it's the illicit streets or it's, the abuelita path, or it's just tobacco, or you're going from cigarettes to tobacco, however, or maybe not, or maybe it's just like a whole other altered consciousness path of just you and your spirit. You don't even need, you and your soul, and you don't even need medicines, because that's how deeply soul rooted your medicine is, that you can go off, and you can have visualizations, and you can hear, and you can have auditory and visual stimulus, regardless that you know that you are pure and divine of the mind, body, and soul. Always. Yeah, always. So what is sacred medicine to me? Sacred medicines to me are substances or something that creates a lasting wholeness, nourishment in the body, mind, soul, and connects us to our truth as holy, divine, pure beings of love. Pretty subjective definition. I repeated it, and it may be a little different because I changed some words. Substances. What is sacred medicine to me? Substances or something that creates lasting. That's a really important term though, lasting. Wholeness, wellness, nourishment in my mind, body, and soul, and connects me to my truth as a holy, divine, pure being of love. That word lasting is probably one of, that word lasting and mind, body, and soul are probably the most tangible words for outcomes here that we can measure. Because I can totally measure if I'm doing well in my mind. I can totally measure if my body is doing well. I can totally measure my soul. I can also measure if something is lasting, if it has a long-lasting effect or impact, affect or impact. So with that being said, I was called to offer us a song. The song is in Spanish, and it's definitely one of my, they're a little tougher in the notes, but it's so appropriate. And so I invite us to just really, just to really sit and you receive it, even if it's in Spanish and it's another language, or if it's not your primary language. So, yeah. Okay. Venimos hoy a cantar las maravillas que tiene el mundo. Es la tierra la que vivimos, es la tierra nos que sustenta, junto con nuestros hermanos, minerales, plantas y peces, aves, tierras, ríos, montañas, compartimos en armonía y a vivir con el gran espíritu y a vivir con la madre tierra, a vivir en paz y armonía, compartir esta nueva era. Todos somos medicinas, somos distintas medicinas. Nos sanamos unos a otros, aprendemos de esta alegría. Todos somos medicinas, somos distintas medicinas. nos sanamos unos a otros, aprendemos desarmonía y a vivir con el gran espíritu, a vivir con la madre tierra, a vivir en paz y armonía, compartir esta nueva era. Mateo, Johan, thank you. So that song is We Are All Medicine. And I possibly have sang it before or shared it before. And it talks about how we are all divine medicine and how when we connect with our brothers and our sisters and the plants and the fishes and the waters and the mountains and the rivers, then we are in pure harmony. And that we've come here to share our divine medicine. And so what is sacred? You're sacred. I'm sacred. And if you're medicine, and I'm medicine, as that song suggests, and everything is medicine, then we're all sacred medicines. I hope that maybe brings it home to you, and that this series, while it talks about these very more popular things that are coming into our mind and that are coming into our knowing, that it also opens you to that divine place of medicine, of your own medicine, and deeply of love and all that presence. Thank you so much, sister, for the beautiful comments and your love and your generous service on this walk. I'm very grateful to you, Mrs. Chelsea. So a couple of reminders. Tonight we are doing Icaro Night, 7 p.m. We're in New York City at Soul Haven. It's posted on our Facebook page and then our Instagram page. Please check it out. It's quite a divine experience of Icaroine and of receiving medicine by way of sound and voice. Very connected to Indigenous medicine ways. And ongoing sessions, limpias, healings, clearings, guidance for personal groups or partnership. And springtime is an amazing time to be doing springtime limpias for the home. Very much so, from all that energy that's been in the house in the winter and expanding forward and cleansing the air. So check us out if you're interested and schedule your appointment today. Also, our local monthly gatherings, they are ongoing of the Sacred Amazonian Medicines, and we have one coming up for the equinox. If you're interested, please do reach out and learn more. Also, our herbal plant spirit medicine making workshop is going to be outdoors this year, and very excited that it's going to be actually in the home and the precious land in which we have received all of our herbal medicine, almost all of our herbal medicine from. So stay tuned for that. Save the date. It's going to be coming out soon, definitely in April. It'll be coming out because it's most likely going to be in July. We're still just ironing out the dates. But if you're really interested in learning a few plants, and since we're going to be outdoors, we're going to be meeting some plants and really going to be engaging with spirits of the land and this understanding of spirit medicine making and really a traditional way of praying and invoking the spirits of the medicines that we are making, please join us and already start setting up your time and place and already scheduling yourself so you can be there. It's going to be 2 days, definitely going to be a full weekend of that, and most likely in July. And that leads me to share some really awesome news that Spirit Medicine Ways will be at the third ayahuasca international conference this year in Girona, Spain, which is what moved the herbal plant spirit medicine to July. So I'm so excited. I am honored to be able to be the representative for Spirit Medicine Ways and to be able to experience this and to be with the abundance of healers and of medicine people from all walks, and the indigenous and elders that are really bringing these ways, that have held these ways so sacredly. And to go be there with my blessed hermana medicina, Areli Satani. And so we'll see if a retreat happens. That's still happening one step at a time. But I did want to share that that's a very exciting news, and it aligns very beautifully with this talk and these beautiful videos. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing you on April 5th for our first video of the 3-part series, Let's Talk Medicines. We'll be talking about tobacco, also known as tabaco or tabacu. We'll be talking about psilocybin mushrooms, also known as magic mushrooms. And we'll be talking about one of my allies, the first ever master plant teachers, Santa Maria, also known as cannabis. That's its medical name, marijuana or weed or bud, and the list goes on there. So I hope to see you there at 1 o'clock on Facebook Live. With that being said, many blessings and so much love, and seeing you soon. Mm-hmm.